Are you still gardening? Here at Kathy's house, we are still trying to take a look at plants. I'm Master Gardener Joyce Riney, and this is Kathy Schmidt. And today we're going to talk about indoor plants. We as gardeners want to still be gardening, and we can't do it right now because of the weather, so we've moved indoors. So we're going to give you some hints today about some indoor plants. Okay, Kathy, could you tell us some of the benefits, first of all, of having indoor plants?
I think the biggest benefit is for our mental health. Plants are so interesting on a gray day, particularly if they're in a window. Just makes spring seem closer. Many of the plants clean the air so that it helps refresh, and it keeps us connected to nature. Most of us love to be outside if we don't have too many allergies. If we do, we can bring the plants in. So I think there are lots of benefits, and they're just fun.
Well, it gives us a little bit of a chance to still think we're digging in the dirt and as you said, having some fun. Okay, when we talk about indoor plants, one of the things about them is that we can be in a little bit more control of the environment and so on when we have indoor plants. We're not at the mercy of Mother Nature. So could you tell us a little bit about how we treat plants indoors?
One of the first things to know is how much light you need. For instance, a succulent plant like this jade plant takes lots of light, so you want it in a south-facing or at least east-facing window so it gets lots of light. This Aglaominia plant doesn't take much, so it can go in a north-facing window where it just gets slight light and not bright sunshine. There are even plants you can put in your bathroom that don't require anything but occasionally turning on the light. This is a pothos. It's indestructible, and I've had one in the bathroom for 2 years. The light is rarely on, there are no windows, and it does great.
What do you do about the heat? Because the heat source is going to be different than having, just the radiant sun. So what about the heat and the problems that we might have with plants because of heat?
Plants like really temperatures from 60 to 75, so most people keep their house someplace in that range. As long as it's over 50, they're probably going to do okay. If it's really cold, you may want to pull them back from windows because it'll be colder near the window.
One of the problems that I have is I notice some of my plants aren't getting enough humidity. The tips of them will turn a little bit brown, and so I know I need to be doing something with a spritzer or get them in a more humid environment, whether it's just to take them and sit them in the bathtub for a day or so, just to let the humidity and the moisture get to those plants. So I know some of them need that kind of treatment.
And some people will put some small rocks under their planters so the water drains out, but there's water at the bottom of the plant holder or the tray underneath it so that they get some. If you have a cool mist vaporizer, that's great to use, and I have one, but I think one of the kids took it when they were home for Christmas. The other thing you can do, and if you have ferns or plants like that, you can use a spray mister. And I'll show you, this plant is a lemon verbena that I was going to make into something interesting, but I forgot to water it 3 days ago. So I'm hoping now that I've watered it today, it will come back. And I've watered the base and I've misted the leaves to see if we can help that.
You mentioned earlier, as you're talking about the plants, you're talking about what this one needs because that's your plant and how you have learned to treat it or which ones need more sun or more light. When we go to purchase a plant, how are we going to know what kind of plant we need? What do we need to consider when we're purchasing one?
The first thing you want to do is find a plant you think looks interesting and look at the plant tag. And it will give you the name of the plant, the sun needs, the water needs, so that really helps. The other thing I would say is really important is if you have a cat or dog, you need to look because some plants that are very easy to grow are also poisonous. This plant is called a survivor plant. It's Dracania, but it's poisonous, and this one too, to dogs. So if you have animals, you might want to look on the internet or any place to find list of animal-friendly plants.
Should we be doing anything to check to see how healthy the plant is? What do you look for to make sure about the health of the plant?
I'm going to have Joyce look at this plant. Let me get the wastebasket. When you get a plant, you might want to take it out of the pot and look. This plant is root bound at the bottom, and so it means, number one, it probably needs a little bit bigger pot, but you need to tease away those roots so it can spread out rather than get root bound. This pot also shows that, and it's even more root bound, as you see.
Yeah.
And these need to be teased out. You can do it with a fork or a knife just to actually cut it.
Okay, a lot of times when you buy plants, you're going to see that kind of condition because they've been growing in the same place for a long time or in greenhouses, and you're going to see that a whole lot. What else do we need to think about in terms of maintenance for our plants?
During the winter, if you buy a plant, it's probably been highly fertilized to get it to grow, but we normally don't fertilize house plants through the winter. Now, violets may be different, but all the other plants need to rest during the winter time.
Okay, and I guess we would still look at our label about the watering. That's going to
Right.
tell us which plants need more water and which ones we should refrain from watering.
And putting your finger in the dirt to see if it's dry or not helps. And when you water, don't let water sit at the bottom of the plant. One of the big things with poinsettias, if you got them, is they come in this lovely foil, but that contains too much water. So if you get one, either take the foil off or make a hole so it will drain.
Okay, and then let's talk about the selection of plants. What are some of the ones that are sort of like, if I can't do anything with an indoor plant, what plants should I be selecting?
The first one that comes to mind is pothos. This plant is indestructible. It can be in any light source, just not too much light.
That explains why I have that plant.
Yes, and if it gets too long, you just put it in some water and it will root and you'll have another plant. This is maybe 3 weeks in water and it's ready to transplant. But my mother had one of these 60 years ago and it never had anything but water that it grew in, never fertilized it, and it lived the whole time I was at home. The Dracania plants, corn plants, spider plants do very well,
I have a spider
hard to
plant
kill.
here.
And if you'll hold up the spider plant, this is not poisonous to cats, but cats love it. They'll tear it apart, so put it up where the cat isn't going to get to it. And they'll have little babies that come down that you can transplant too. But it's just a pretty plant. It's not flowers, but it gives you some light during the winter.
There's also different varieties of them. Some of them have more of a whitened leaf than the others do. I used to have these hanging up in my classroom all the time from the windows because I liked having that healthy air in there. Okay, and then when we get around to talking about all these plants and what we can do, we know the weather's going to be continuing to be cold and we can't get outside in the gardens and do the things we want to do. So now we've got a whole new gardening plan indoors. So until the spring comes, we'll be indoors tending plants and trying to encourage you to do the same.
And the other thing, it's nice to sit by your plants and look at all the seed catalogs you get in January.
Good point.